You can join me on July 11th to learn all about how to name your private practice. All the details and times are over at practiceofthepractice.com/power. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/power for you to register for these 30-minute micro webinars to help you learn how to name your private practice. I can't wait to see you in there. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 887. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am so glad you are here. We have so many solo practitioners and group practitioners that are listening to this show. We also have our other show that LaToya Smith runs, the How to Grow a Group Practice podcast, that's particular for group practice owners. I don't know why I stumbled over my words there, particular. But whenever you're growing a business, whether you're a solo practice, a group practice, at some point, you're going to realize that you don't want to do everything. Sure, there's that phase where you bootstrap and keep your costs low, but at some point you're going to want to hire good talent. You're going to want to have, some different people you need to recruit. You're going to have, people you want to outsource to. You might want to bring in more clinicians. You want to have good quality team players. I know that when I had my private practice, it was hard to figure out, like, how do I hire? Who do I hire? How do I find good quality people? And that's why today I have brought on Fletcher Wimbush. Fletcher is the founder and CEO of Hire Talent, a company specializing in recruitment and hiring practices. He's interviewed over 10,000 applicants and assessed tens of thousands more throughout his career. Fletcher is known for sharing his expertise with business groups and HR leaders, aiming to enhance their recruitment strategies. He's also published a wide range of content on the subject, including his book, Hiring Talented Team Players, A Guide to Getting It Right. So welcome to the Practice of Practice podcast, Fletcher. So glad that you are here today.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I
Yeah,
love it.
I feel like we've had some team building activities to get to this interview. Like, people do not understand sometimes things hit the fan. I'm just going to tell them because it was, all of it's been unexpected, and we got through it and we finally made it work. Fletcher and I, were scheduled last week, and then last minute there was some home repair people that showed up that he didn't know about, and we had to reschedule. And today we had tech issues and mic issues, and I feel like we got through it and we didn't get frustrated with each other. So
Yeah.
Fletcher and I are already good buddies going into this interview after, working through some tech storms. So welcome to the show, Fletcher.
That's the epitome of being an entrepreneur, right? You become your own IT person, your own HR person, your own accountant, and every other hat that you have to wear to run a business, right?
Yeah. So often it's just like, in the moment, you just got to figure it out. So, Well, Fletcher, how'd you get into this work of helping folks to hire well?
Yeah. Well, it is literally a lifelong passion, and definitely by accident, but sort of fated to be this way, I suppose. My father was a management consultant, and something actually many people don't know about him, and this is always a tough subject. But he was a Scientologist. I mean, he was a counselor, right? And in 1982, when I was born, he was excommunicated from the church for being too successful. But he took that kind of counselor, personal development, and I'm sure a lot of your practitioners will have emotions around this. But he took that and he said, "Hey, look, I built a really great counseling business, basically, right? A multi-million-dollar one at that." And he went on to coach and counsel business executives. And so I grew up in that environment, right? Being a young person, my father was a researcher. He was science minded. He was personal development, growth minded. And I was subject to all of this. I didn't know. I didn't really understand where this was coming from. They never talked to me about it. I didn't actually know much about Scientology until I was in my 30s, frankly. But and I was an extrovert. So naturally, they made me like the captain of the football team. And when I was a junior in high school, I ran for student body president, and they elected me. I don't know why, but I had no business being elected to that role. But I found myself in these leadership roles in whatever I did. And I gravitated to one concept. I never wanted to be a counselor, never wanted to be a coach, Not that I don't value it, it's just not me. I don't have patience for it, right? But I've gravitated to the idea if you get the right people on the bus, great things are going to happen to your organization. And through my early career, I got to practice that a little bit. And one career part of my career is I ran a commercial dish machine company. It was privately owned and operated. It was a large organization, 100 business units over throughout the country. They hired me to take over the worst performing business unit in the country. So just like the worst, it's like being like becoming the coach of the worst baseball team ever or something, right? The Bad News Bears. And through good hiring practices, we developed a team that took that branch from worst to in the top three throughout the country. And many of the people that we put on that team are now in senior leadership roles throughout the organization. So it's a testament to what you can do by putting the right people on the team and then developing them and letting them flourish. And when my time came to take over this talent assessment business, I jumped right into it. And 10 years ago today, I started that journey. And I've had the great pleasure of working with so many different types of organizations and helping them build better teams.
Hmm. Well, let's start with the problem. So right now, at the time of this recording in 2023, we have really low unemployment. It's really hard for people to hire. At least that's what I'm hearing from so many of our consulting clients and our groups that we work with. What are you seeing in the hiring environment for the typical private practitioner?
Yeah, well, obviously it requires I mean, depending on the role you're hiring for, but it requires some kind of specialized experience and education. And the fact of the matter is professionals of all types, not just counselors, are in short supply. They don't produce enough, right? And then, particularly if you're trying to hire licensed practitioners, that is a real challenge. Is more demand for your services than there are these people. So it really requires employers to get clear about their value proposition and think about the other person in the equation. This is something that my father taught me. He explained this in the terms of exchange diagram. If you We all want something. Now, often we want something from somebody else. And when we think about it from our perspective and what our needs are, and we're only focused on us, I, instead of them, the other person, it becomes very difficult to uh, create a relationship that makes the other person want to give us everything they got. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Uh, when you think about that applying to let's break this down by first people that are non-clinical, so admin support, billing, things like that. um how would we apply that specifically to non-clinical staff and helping hire them?
Yeah. So you want to understand what quality of life means to that type of individual, right? Um, so these folks they're looking for some degree of flexibility for one. That's one thing that everybody learned through the pandemic is that work life balance, or which means the quality of life at work, but also the care and empathy and the reasonable flexibility, not unreasonable. We're not, asking people to let people do anything they want, but reasonable flexibility in the workplace. And then people are always looking to grow as human beings, right? It's human nature to want to evolve ourselves, both our mental and emotional states, but also our physical environments, right? And so compensation is still number one, but so we just want to be conscientious of that. And the market has changed so fast. You do need to be considerate of making a strong competitive wage when you're going after these folks. If you do that, they're the back office staff, like if you have an assistant or office manager, or maybe somebody helping with billing, or even just kind of jack of all trades, kind of operations person, these people are out there in droves. So you have a very, very good chance of finding those folks. The key with those is really making strong hiring decisions and doing a great job of assessing them. Um, yeah, these are roles that you should find a large talent pool for. They are employed, but they're looking for better environments.
Yeah, when you think about some strategies of attracting those folks, what are some strategies to really help differentiate a private practice from other businesses out there?
Yeah, think about the why, right? I think this goes back to us as human beings. We all sort of have a purpose or want to have a purpose-led life, right? So first is crafting a marketing message. So here's mistake number one. If you just learn one thing today is throw away your job description and think about how you market your jobs as an advertisement, the same way you would market anything else. It should be compelling. It should speak to your target audience. It should be a message that talks about them, that helps them see themselves in that role in your world. And the number one thing about getting that right probably is telling them, helping them understand the why. What impact will this person be able to make on others? And you are looking for people who are interested in that, because being in this type of environment does take somebody who has a particular interest and care for others. Mental and emotional well-beings, and that may not be for everyone, but for those who gravitate to that see that and see that as a great purpose in life, they're going to flock to it.
Yeah. As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using therapy notes. They make billing, scheduling, note taking, telehealth, and e prescribe incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. You don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research and see for yourself. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR system available today, with a 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com and on Google. All you have to do is click the link below or type promo code Joe on their website over at therapynotes.com and receive a special 2-month trial absolutely free. Again, that's therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe on the website. If you're coming from another EHR, Therapy Notes will also import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time and try Therapy Notes. Just use promo code Joe at checkout. Now, what about getting licensed people, getting clinicians in? What are some unique strategies or ways that people are doing that? Maybe even some workflow of things that people should keep in mind when they're doing that hiring.
Yeah. So with your back office staff, just real quick, and I forgot to mention, you want to be marketing on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn. And all of those platforms have free postings, and you probably, if you write a compelling advertisement, will probably get an overwhelming number of applicants. Now, when you're talking about your licensed practitioners, these people obviously they don't make enough of them. They're all gainfully employed. They have their pick of places. So you you want to think about, and the challenge, and you know this from your audience, is these people often separate from large organizations and go off to be solo entrepreneurs, right? So how do we either attract those solo people back into the group environment, or how do we make our value proposition one that says, hey, I'm better off with the team than I am doing this on my own, right? And a lot of that is going to be, again, goes back to those kind of quality of life things. One is going to be compensation. The other one is going to be quality of life. And then it's going to be flexibility. Now, it's also going to be the best value proposition you're going to have is, I would assume many solo practitioners can go out there, or people who were once a solo practitioner, think about it. The thing you like doing the least about your job is the administrative back office aspect of it, having to schedule appointments with clients, bill, collect money, uh, find new clients, right? You want to be going in there and working with your clients and helping them make improvements in their lives. That's like why you do this, I hope, right? So if you can create an environment that allows them to maximize their earnings, improve their flexibility and their quality of life while removing all of the things that they don't want to do, then you've got a really killer value proposition, and a high performing uh, person is going to have a reason to want to take a close look at your opportunity. That's number one. Now, Joe, I think you want something more tactical.
No, I mean, I think that that's a great starting point, and I think for a lot of people to think through that, and then I would love, kind of a follow up to what you just said. Um, if someone says, what's the argument for me joining your practice versus having my own? You kind of hit on that. Part of it is, making sure you're covering the admin, the client acquisition. Any other phrases or ways that you see therapists that are owners attract people that maybe are already solo practitioners to join their practice?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna take that into the more tactical side of it. So look, this is a small world. If you're in a community, I'm in Southern California, you're gonna be going to the same conferences, continuing education, you're gonna be in the same groups, you're gonna be listening to the same podcasts, right? So this is a great opportunity to tap into those communities. So I would be giving back to those communities. I'd be adding value, and I'd be networking within those communities and taking advantage of every event that you have to build a relationship. And I don't want this is not a used car sales pitch type of situation, but you should be dropping subtle hints about the value proposition of your organization, like a brag, right? So you could say, you could tell a story like, hey, Jane was a solo practitioner. She gave it a try for 5 years. She worked for a big organization and she didn't really like it. She went off on her own, and that was okay. But you know what? She kind of realized that after doing that for a period of time, that she was sort of uh, trapped in that situation. She was working more than she really actually wanted to. She thought it would give her freedom, but instead she's almost like imprisoned herself in this situation because she's constantly having to do all these extra back office staff. She constantly have to fill her schedule. She's constantly trying to get juggling of changing of clients appointments and last minute reschedules and all this stuff. And she just realized she's spending all her free time running her business, not doing what she loves. And so when we began that conversation, she came to work with us. She got 15 hours of her time back. She didn't really have to do any of the things she didn't want to do anymore. We also gave her a ton of autonomy and freedom. We don't have a bunch of rules or like regulations. I mean, other than our professional duty to our clients. And she got all this time back and got to do what she loved. And in fact, she was even making more money because she was able to see more clients, help more clients. So she got her time back and made more money. She is now a raving fan of working here. If that at all resonates with you, we'd love to talk more.
Mm, amazing. Oh, take us through some things that are maybe more process oriented that people miss when they're doing hiring. What are things that they just
Yeah.
miss?
Well, I think there's four things. So we sort of espouse like a what we call a fact driven hiring system. But the first place people make mistakes is creating a performance based job description. Most people create job descriptions by listing a list of tasks and responsibilities and requirements, and it's just big laundry list of demands. And that just is boring and obnoxious. And you're going to tell me when and how to make the cup the coffee in the morning. I mean, nobody wants to work in that sort of environment. Instead, we should be thinking about the OKRs, or objectives and key results, and the KPIs, and allow people that their personal autonomy to get to those paths, right? Because if it's have fresh coffee for all of our clients, then it's not like how you make the coffee. It's not when you make the coffee. It's not what kind of coffee you make. It's fresh coffee for all our clients. We don't have to worry about the tasks or the details behind that, right? If the coffee's not fresh or it's not there for our first client of the day, then you failed at the objective, right? So we're managing the outcome, not the how people are doing it. And then the last
Mm.
piece is just getting really good at assessing people. But as therapists, really good at listening and use your therapist skills to really understand what the other person is looking for in their career and their why, and take those notes and score candidates against those key objectives. And so, uh, start thinking about your interviews, the skills that you have as a therapist, and start using those as an interviewer.
Hmm. I would love to also talk a little bit about just kind of that onboarding and ongoing management. I love that idea of making sure that the outcome is very clear. That's why oftentimes with my folks, I tell them, "Here's what I want. I don't want to have to worry about this aspect of the business. Ideally, every month I could see these numbers. You tell me the plan for how you can make that happen." And then they create the process, and then I'll poke a few holes in it. But for the most part, the person in the role is the one creating the process, so then they can really teach other people if they need to transfer out, that they have some ownership in it. For me, I know that that ongoing supervision side of things, I fell on my face a few times in my private practice. And one time, there's this lady who she was part time. She was probably doing 10 sessions a week, and mostly in the evenings when a lot of the other full timers weren't there. And she did a lot of crafts with kids, and she'd like leave the scissors out or things like that. And she shared an office with this other lady who worked with really angry and often dangerous kids, and so scissors out on the desk was not the best thing. So this lady would like put the scissors back in the drawer, and we'd always get these emails like, "Where'd my scissors go?" And it just it became really toxic, where it's like this lady was freaking out over who printed on my printer and who moved my scissors. And we were a low drama place. And so I went into to let her go, and she like broke down crying because I hadn't really given her a heads up that there was any tension. Like I just had not done that. And it really for me was a reminder of what to me seems so obvious, uh, is not, and to give that ongoing feedback to say, listen, like, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what needs to change. Here's the timeline. We're going to check in 2 weeks to see if there's changes. What other ongoing support of staff do you see as being really important for either the kind of assistant support staff side or on the clinical side?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of touching on two different things. When you get into the training and onboarding piece, but then you're also talking about performance management, or you can call it whatever you want: nurturing, building, developing of people. But those two are synonymous, but they're treated a little bit differently depending on where you're at in the relationship, right? And I think that's the second place where people make the biggest mistakes. You ask where are the things that, the biggest challenges? Well, one is training and onboarding, right? We're so busy, we hire somebody to do a job and we forget to sort of train and onboard them. And we forget to provide them feedback. So that feedback isn't just in the early days, but it's ongoing in the case of your story, right? If somebody would just, I mean, I don't know if anybody ever sat down and had a conversation with her and just said, "Hey, we have, kids that come into this room after you, and the scissors are dangerous, and it doesn't fit our core value of creating a safe place for our patients and our clients." And again, bring it back to the core value, to the OKR, which I would imagine that you had probably had something like that in there. Not about like put the scissors away, because put the scissors away is a task. This is what's the
Mhm.
purpose, right? The purpose is safe place, right? But that constant feedback, and really the way I find the easiest way to do that is just it's weekly one-on-ones, and it's just built into your life, into your schedule, right? But it's also on direct feedback at the time, and so there are a lot of people are afraid of conflict, and it's something that we might have to build a conflict muscle to develop. But just having that conversation there, right there on the spot, in a constructive, non-emotional way, because The problem that you ran into is that the emotions got out of control, which made it a toxic environment, not that it was the scissors being left out, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, uh, just add just quickly, but when you're with new people, you want to have smaller milestones. So, if it's get all the billing done on the first of the month, well, maybe for your new office administrator, it's by the end of the first week of the month. Because it's not realistic
Yeah.
that a new hire who's never done this before or has only done it now, maybe they're on their second or third month, that they're going to have this down so pat that they can get it done in a day, right? And come month two, it takes them 3 days to do it, and you're hammering them. That's not going to be a great way to start that relationship, and it's an unreasonable expectation.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Uh, that's a good one. So I want to take it back to the why, and the purpose. So I think it's really, really important as you think about growing your practice. And this, again, in this type of environment is so crucial. People have an option to do this on their own or go work somewhere else. Your organization has to have a value proposition, has to have a purpose and a why that is far superior, that is ingrained into the culture of your organization, and everybody else and your competitors, and doing it on your own. And getting really, really clear about that is instrumental to growing a business and a team.
So awesome, Fletcher. If people want to connect with you, if they want to hire you, tell them a little bit about your services and where they can find out more.
Yeah, so we offer all of the tools that you need. So we have a hiring coach, you have a hiring platform, which you can find at discoveredats.com. So discovered, past tense, ats.com. Or I'm super easy to find. My name is Fletcher Wimbush. Uh, there's not very many of us out there in the world, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I love a hard hiring challenge. I don't care how difficult it is or how hard this has been for you. Reach out to me. We'd be happy to spend at least a few minutes just talking to you about some tips and tricks and things that you can do, no cost on that. And if our tools and our coaching that comes along with those tools are something that are value to you, we'd be more than happy to get you started. And they are very low cost. So most organizations pay, a couple $100 a month for these services. So it's life changing, and we'd love to help you. And again, if you just want to pick my brain, feel free, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to give you some of my time.
Oh, so awesome. Well, Fletcher, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Joe, thank you.
Well, if you want to speed up your progress, make sure you go connect with Fletcher to get some help with hiring. Also, if you are in Group Practice Boss or Group Practice Launch, you can ask your peers within Circle what they're doing as well. That's always a resource for you if you're in our membership communities. And if you're not, we are going to be opening those back up in September of 2023. So make sure that you are on the wait list for those. All those details will be over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. That's where we have all of our Level Up Week information that will be coming out very, very soon. So you'll make sure you get all those emails about those sorts of things coming up this fall. Also, we could not do this show without our amazing sponsors like Therapy Notes. Therapy Notes has the best electronic health records out there for you to keep track of progress notes, scheduling, telehealth billing, all of that in one platform. If you head on over to therapynotes.com, just use promo code Joe at checkout. That way they know that their ad dollars are working. Also, you're going to get 2 months totally for free. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and thank you for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.